Gen Z is viewed by the older generations as lazy, incompetent, and lackluster in terms of what they can bring to society. Ironically, these same older folks that claim this stance were the ones who built this system for us and were supposed to teach us how to survive within it. But we all know blaming others is easier than taking self-accountability. Well, in some ways, these boomers are right. But let's hear what Gen Z and Millennials have to say for themselves. And if you personally been liking my daily doomer commentaries over here on the channel, then make sure you like, comment your thoughts, spins below, and subscribe to see my daily uploads right here on the page. And a huge shout out to the few of you who have been going above and beyond and checking out some of those links down below in the description. Those are some of the best ways to support me and the content around here. Now let's begin this shit show.
We're both millennials. How do you find working with Gen Z in the workplace?
Gen Zs, the old Gen Zs. I think they just have seen the scam and they're like, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
I'll start with the bet. I think the Gen Zs, the pendulum has swung a little too far. Whenever there's these societal shifts, it always winds up the pendulum swings a little bit too far. So I think a lot of their anti-work stuff, it's gone too far. It's listen, life is work. Life is work. That's what life is.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful, you want to be good at anything, it's work. That's what it is. But I just think that they've seen it be a scam and they're like, we're not participating in this. And they've also just have such a different atmosphere to create a career in. They see these people online that just create businesses for themselves by making stupid videos and doing whatever. And then they see other people online that just complain about their 9-to-5s all day and how they're, feel like indentured servants. And they're just kind of like, why would I do the worst thing? You know what I mean? I think their work ethic or their perceived lack thereof just comes down to the fact that they're not being incentivized properly to really be able to build. They don't feel like they can really build a lucrative, successful future for themselves. So I just think they have a totally different world than the boomers who are still running companies,
Yeah. They didn't even have a shot, basically, when they got in the workplace.
Yeah.
And we kind of had it for a little bit when we started.
We were at least sold the illusion of a shot.
I felt that.
Yeah, we were sold the illusion of a shot.
Now, it is pretty wild, at least, when you really point out the perspective that a generation that, mine, Gen Z, I mean, even probably millennials, who have spent their entire life just hearing the news, hearing old people just say, things are only going to get worse, life is tough, you better just, get stronger, you better just try to deal with it, you better just, get tough. And then you wonder why everybody walks around well, nothing's going to get better. The news is never good. I've never seen one good news article. In 4 years, but I have a whole nother meltdown when the political stance gets changed again. And then if you even do have an opinion, good luck having an opinion because you're going to get canceled by half the people you know, and then that's going to ruin all your relationships. It's quite the societal standpoint that we're in right now, where, of course, young people are going to be like, whatever, dude, who cares? And also, I think it's really ironic how people, at least older people, and even I've touched on it since I do these videos, I do online stuff, and I like to, branch out doing these different online endeavors to build my different revenue streams so I can, survive just like everybody else tries to, right? And then we get shamed for trying to do so, oh, you want to be a social influencer? Oh, you want to be famous? Oh, you want to make millions of views so you can actually make a couple $1,000s and not be in debt and broke all the time? Shame on you. You should want to be like everybody else. When in reality, didn't every boomer, Gen Xer, when they were a teenager or 20s, probably want to be a rock star or a football player or whatever, seemed like that cool thing back then? It was way more inaccessible way back in the day. You have to be part of a label, you have to be signed to some big entertainment industry thing. Now, anybody with their cell phone can make a couple of videos, go viral, build a small following, and make a couple extra bucks. It's way more accessible now than it is a long time ago. And I think it's the same thing back when I was a kid and I got my first cell phone, where my older siblings were like, well, I didn't have that when I was your age, so you should wait till you were older. The same reason, whereas I think it's for this, where it's old people are probably a little more jealous. It's maybe not, maybe jealous is a negative word. They're envious of the easy accessibility that the younger folk have to make it for themselves, even knowing it's really not so easy when you really look at the broad perspective that money doesn't go as far, the economy is vastly different, and pretty much the overall wages are completely stagnant in terms of the cost of living. So let's continue.
Z thinks, yeah, I watched what happened to my parents' career, and I watched what happened to my older sister's career, and they worked very hard, and they still got laid off. I was talking to a 25-year-old woman who does some freelance work for us the other day, and she said to me, can you please make an Instagram reel about burnout? My friends and I are just so burnt out. And I just looked at her, I said, you're 25? And I said, you're burnt out? She's just so burnt out. So I said, I don't want to sound like an oldster, but when I was your age, I worked 7 days a week, nonstop. And the word burnout never came into my mind. I love my work. This was what you did. You worked. We loved it. We all did it together. We would have worked more if we could have. And then she said a very interesting thing. She said, but you had hope. And I did have hope. We all did have hope. We
Yeah.
believed that if you worked hard, you were rewarded for it. And so this is the disconnect.
These days, when people feel so burnt out and they talk about the difference and they genuinely feel like they're just, they talk about their emotions. It's not that they were just emotional, that the younger generation is just too touchy-feely. It's that we're just, talking about genuinely what's going on in our head. And I don't think it's just a younger person thing. If anybody, no matter what the age is, if you are, waking up every day and you're looking in the mirror and you're like, what's the point of this? If you're in your break if you're in the break room on your break and, your 15-minute alarm goes off to get back into the trenches and you just click your phone off and you stare at your reflection in your black phone screen and you're like, wow, look at me in this uniform, I wish I wasn't here. And then you go back and you get rudely talked to by customers at a place you don't really want to be, at a place that's not really paying your bills. And then you're thinking to yourself, even if I did want to get out of this and get a new job, it's going to take me 6 months to a year to get out of here and get out of my lease in my apartment. You feel trapped. And so you lose hope. And without hope, there's not much need to go on, which that has probably resulted in the Gen Z stare and all these other different terms and all these other different things that are, kind of just resulting in these like phenomenons and stuff. But I think it's so interesting to hear this type of talk from older people themselves, because I think we really need this kind of like, wholesome, like, group thing where we kind of like, go back and forth, kind of take both generations, Gen Z, Millennials, Boomers, Gen X. We sit down in like a little therapy session and we talk it out, because at the end of the day, I think we both have a lot of the same type of ideas and mentality. If we really just broke it down and stopped looking at each other like fighting dogs, like fighting homeless dogs in the alley street over their last meal. That's kind of how we talk about everything. I don't understand why that's the case. There's so much aggression, so much negativity. Really doesn't have to be like that. But please let me know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments around all this stuff.
This is the most indebted generation in history. All I'm saying is I am here as a messenger of the next generation. I'm telling you, this is bad. This generation can't own anything. They owe so much more money than generations prior. This is the most indebted generation in history. Gen Z owes the most money in any history, any generation in history. So we wonder why. Then all of a sudden, hey, you want to go buy a home now at the age of 38? Your credit score is destroyed. Your spending habits are terrible. You don't want to save, and you don't think you should save. And you know what I hear from some of them is they say, "Well, why should I save when?" What I saw around me is that you need to get into this economy and spend because the savers got wrecked in 2008. There is economic nihilism that is set in to a lot of this next generation where they're not participating in any of the upside right now. In fact, they're only seeing the downside. They're seeing their apartments get smaller, their rents go up, their groceries get more expensive.
Now, I know some of you guys have certain opinions on certain people that talk about certain things, so I try to, pick and choose which videos and who I post on here, but that was Charlie Kirk. Despite what you think about him, despite what you think about his political stances, that's not what this conversation, this whole topic is about. We're just talking about Gen Z versus Boomers and the, kind of aggressive exchange that they have amongst both, but I guess you can say both sides for this little debate here. But I think it's so interesting what he was saying, where it's like, there's no hope, because there's a reason why we have these terms for each generation, boomers and doomers. The boomers, they were excited to get into the workforce. They were excited to save up and buy a home and build their family. They were excited to see the first moon landing, all that bullshit. And now, Gen Z, my generation, what is there to be excited for? The next economy crash? Well, I guess we're waiting for the next housing market crash. Maybe we can, get a little foot in the door. Maybe we can just keep a job for longer than a year, but then the raises aren't going to keep up with inflation, so what's the point of that? There's nothing to look forward to. And just like, Charlie was saying, despite what you think about him, he was right when he's saying, my generation is only experiencing the downfalls of society. We never really get our foot in the door to anything that actually is going to make us have some sort of positive benefit or positive effect in our lives. Maybe a few of us will do some of those like crypto meme coins, but the majority of us get screwed over and scammed by the few that do make any sort of profit. And those are also Gen Z. So then we're just, again, left in the dust, thinking to ourselves, when are we going to make it? When's our big break? When is my one day going to pay off where I can get out of this mess? And unfortunately, you look around and all the people older than you, the mess never got solved for them. So you're just, extending this doom, expecting this never-ending doom that's just longing over you. It's like a shadow on your back, just weighing you down every single time you do anything. And that's kind of why my generation, the younger generations, are just burnt out and sick of it all. Yeah, guys, that's going to wrap up today's video. So I'd love to hear all your guys' thoughts, opinions regarding any of this nonsense, and possibly which generation you're from, if it's a, Gen Z Millennial stance or a Boomer Gen X stance. I'd love to hear your thoughts, opinions regarding all of this. I do read all the comments. I do check out all you guys who share your thoughts, opinions down below, so feel free to continue doing that. It is I think, probably one of the best ways to show your support and get the videos out there, so definitely appreciate you guys doing all that. Huge support to everybody who's been checking out those links down below in the description. Those are some of the best ways to support me and the content around here. And you can check out the channel membership to see these videos 12 hours to 24 hours. It really depends on how quickly I finish them. I'm trying my best, guys. Either way, huge shout out to you guys, and huge shout out to the community around here. We are growing, we're going strong, and more videos daily. So enjoy the content. I hope you guys have been enjoying. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.